At this moment, I want to usher us into the next session, and we'll have a video before I introduce the next speaker.
Amidst unprecedented challenges, our food systems are now more vulnerable. The pandemic, conflicts, economic slowdown, and climate crisis have disrupted global food supply chains, leaving millions hungry and food insecure. In 2021, hunger affected up to 828 million people. But a world without hunger is possible. How do we achieve it? Through sustainable industrialization. UNIDO, the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, provides solutions to advance food security by facilitating technology transfer and agribusiness investment. It collaborates with the private sector and UN organizations, such as FAO and WFP, to ensure that all people at all times have physical, social, and economic access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food. UNIDO, established in 1966, supports its 172 member states by leveraging its experience, expertise, and global networks to strengthen food processing industries in developing countries. The farm-to-fork efforts are supported through food systems transformation, agribusiness investment, off-farm job creation, and sustainable production in agribusinesses. For example, UNIDO supports the private sector and government in setting up integrated agro-food parks to boost investments. UNIDO also employs digital technologies to streamline agri-food supply chains and promote knowledge transfer. This boosts food security, lowers costs, and creates job opportunities, while empowering women and youth. It minimizes waste, enhances safety, and opens access to new markets. Strengthening sustainable supply chains not only creates jobs, it also increases export revenues and boosts economies. Let's work together to transform food systems, promote sustainability, and end hunger.
I read somewhere recently that there's no love as true as the love of food. And with that quotation, I'd like to invite you to this session where we're going to be spotlighting solutions on powering sustainable agriculture. And as you have seen, we need to decarbonize every sector, including the agricultural sector. But behind the scenes, there are many other challenges that afflict the agricultural sector. Sufficient and sustainable energy to continue powering the production of food is of utmost importance if we are to continue providing and supplying food for our livelihoods, but also limiting waste of food by being able to power the preservation of food, agricultural produce, and post-harvest. And to usher us into the conversation and to set the scene for this segment, I want to introduce Mr. Martin Keller, who is the president of New Renewable Energy Laboratory, for the keynote speech. Welcome, Mr. Keller.
So thank you, everybody, and thanks for having me here. So what I want to do in the next 8 minutes there is to give you a little bit of an overview about NREL and also what we're doing in this area to combine energy and ag. And as we have heard in this whole meeting, there's action. And this is also a time where I think, yes, we have now this technology where we can start bringing this forward. So before we go into this, a little bit about NREL. So we are US Department of Energy National Laboratory in Golden, Colorado. We are really focusing on renewable energy, energy efficiency, and the systems integration. And this, again, what you will see here on this combination, how we're bringing all these different elements together. We're working on renewable energy, on sustainable transportation, there from bioenergy to hydrogen to transportation, in the building sector for buildings and industrial efficiency, and again, we said the energy systems integration, and more in over 90 countries where we're helping countries to create these implementation plans, how they can move the energy transition forward. This whole meeting, the whole 2 days, I think the most words that we've heard was always around action. And I want to show you this slide because I think it's also important how we as research organizations moving into action and accelerating the energy transition. When you look at solar, it took 30 years for solar to become one of the cheapest ways of producing electricity. We do not have 30 years. We have to do this faster. We also have some gaps in our innovation pipelines. What can we do to really accelerate research towards deployment? That's a little bit what we're trying to do here at NREL, where we're having facilities from fundamental science all the way to scale up, where we're accelerating the scalability of some of these technologies, all the way to a very large system in the grid system up to 20 megawatts, where we're then integrating all this together and accelerating the deployment of this technology, coupled with a lot of support in the communities to help them to decide where we need to go. So now before we go to the pairing of solar and agriculture, I want to show you a few examples what wind has done, and especially wind in the United States, because this can be a very interesting model how we can create or combine renewable energy with ag. In the United States, there's about 60,000 wind turbines built on ag farmland. So why is this so interesting for the farmers? Because one wind turbine, in average, gives income to the farming community of about $2,000 to $10,000. It's also very easy to farm around wind turbines. I mean, they don't take much space because they are just vertical structures. So suddenly you're creating extra income for the farming communities. You're also creating extra job in rural America because a lot of the fastest growing areas right now in the US is wind technicians. So not only did you suddenly create electricity, energy for the farming community, which they can use to increase the efficiency on their farms, they can sell extra electricity back to the grid, and you're creating extra jobs. So how can we do this in solar? So a lot of times what you're hearing when you go to the communities, that there is this conflict that large solar installations take away agricultural land. This creates some issues in the communities. We're doing a big project in Puerto Rico where this is exactly the discussions. How do we use the land the most efficient? And can we afford this to take ag land away to put solar panels on there? So now agrivoltaics, the combination of solar panels with agricultural techniques can overcome these problems. So we've done a lot of studies there that this can balance food production and renewable energy goals. You can see that we can use traditional utility scale configurations for crop production, animal husbandry, and ecosystems. But there's also now alternatives way how we can build solar panels, which will increase, for example, grazing of animals, more kind of crops which you can build onto the systems. So the underlying theme is very simple, that both crops and solar production can be better when paired together. And there's a lot of data now out there showing this. So there's a lot of benefits by combining solar and agricultural technologies. So first for the ecosystem services. So a lot of times when you build the systems, you have to avoiding grading, and because you don't have to compact the soils. You can use less herbicides because you have plants growing underneath your panels. The data showed that this is really, really good for pollinator habitats. We're seeing increase in pollinators. We preserve native habitats in the ecosystems. Stormwater management, a lot of this soil is not as compacted, which will increase and helps in the stormwater management by different ground covers, low impact practices, makes the site more permeable. And crop productions. We have seen that certain crops thrive under this partial shade, and panel increase also moisture levels. And grazing. A lot of animals love to have the shade underneath the panels, and so all these are really good advantages where you can combine these two technologies. So what are the impacts across the food and energy water nexus? So in food production, we have about 25 sites where we manage across the United States in agrivoltaics to understand where we can go with this technology. For a couple of fruits like chilipetrine, and there was 3 times more efficiency by growing these plants underneath solar panels. The water use efficiency for jalapenos, for example, was 157% less. and is greater than agrivoltaic systems. Cherry tomatoes, as another example, the water use efficiency was 65% greater. So a lot of vegetables and crops really do well under solar panels. Water savings. So the data have shown that when you irrigate every 2 days, so that the soil moisture remains 15% higher when you have solar panels on top. When you irrigate daily, it's about 5%. And on the renewable energy side, it also benefits on the efficiency of the panels, because the plants will cool the panels for about 9 degrees, which increase the efficiency of the solar panels. All of this really show that there is an interesting combination of bringing these two technologies together. So there's 5 C's what we need to do to further develop agrivoltaic systems. So climate, soil, environmental conditions, crop selection, cultivation methods, configurations with solar technologies, what type of solar panels do you use, how do you configure the solar panels, compatibility and flexibility, and the most important thing is, again here, collaboration and partnerships. And they're also in an energy just transitioned, so this is a very important element. We have to further explore how we can combine agrivoltaics and move this forward. So I want to, at this point, thank all of you for the attention, and thank you for listening.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Keller. Before you leave the stage, I want to check if there's a question for you from the audience. Does anybody have a question for Mr. Keller? Yes, gentlemen, there is a microphone here. If you can make your way, it would be nice. Please introduce yourself and ask your question. A round of applause for him as he comes. Some motivation.
So my name is Bahaj, and I'm from the University of Southampton. I worked very closely with people from Israel before. I'd like to have a chat with you afterwards, if possible. I really wanted to understand what is the relationship that you have built from NREL with countries in the developing world, let's say in sub-Saharan Africa, and how that relationship allowed the knowledge generated by NREL to be implemented.
So in the agrivoltaic system or in general?
Correct.
So I would tell you that this is an excellent question, because we now starting to take this data also on an international level, because I would argue that agrivoltaics is a very new area now, really penetrating quickly, where people see the value. So even when you look back 5-10 years ago, we did not have a lot of data. That's why we established some of this solar, what we call solar gardens in the US, in different climate zones, from Colorado to Phoenix to the East Coast, to understand what the different criteria are. So now we're starting to get the data, and now I think what we're trying actively doing is now reaching out to some of these countries you described, because we clearly see the benefits, especially when you look into family farms. Right now, specifically for smaller vegetable farms, it sounds very, very promising, whereas there's still a lot of labor involved. So this is where this technology can really be a boost for family farms in the growth of especially vegetables, what we are seeing, and also in the combination of grazing of farm animals. So, but I would argue there's still a lot of work we have to do. We have to do more pilots across the different countries, and especially in different areas as you described. So I think this is something we need to accelerate, how we can partner with many different countries and climate zones to explore this technology further.
So here is an offer to you. I'm sorry. If we can get together with the universities in African region and European regions to actually address that issue about agriculture,
yes,
that'd be really great.
Count us in. Look what I said. We are absolutely excited to be part. So we will talk.
Thank you.
Following.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. A round of applause for him.
Thank you.
Mr. Keller, I have a final question for
Yeah.
you before you leave us. What do you foresee happening in the agricultural sector in 2024 and as we go into COP29 next year?
So I think what we see in the whole energy side, that we're seeing much more the integration of different technologies. Historically, we were very stovepiped and pellet in the way we're using energy. So for example, transportation was very different from the energy in our homes, was very different from industry. Now all this is morphing. And now this is expanding, and we will see, this is why this technology are getting so important, how we can integrate kind of energy and farming together. So what I would say for looking forward, that you will have much more of the combination where farmers will produce the energy on site by using technologies such as agrivoltaics, even small wind farms where they can use, we have heard an earlier talk, very fascinating, about solar pumps for irrigation. So this is a big movement where the technology now is getting efficient enough that you can now reach this level to integrate this in the agricultural world. And I think this will be absolutely critical and will give a tremendous opportunity for rural America to suddenly step over, not to wait till we're having a grid system across all the different countries. We can do this in a much more distributed way where agriculture and energy combined will play a major role.
What a beautiful vision of the future.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Mr. Keller.
Thank you, appreciate it.
A round of applause for him as he leaves the stage. So we do have two solutions that we want to spotlight on powering agriculture today. And it is my great pleasure to invite the first speaker who's going to give us his solution. Please, a round of applause for Mr. Akash Agwal, the CEO of New Life Dynamic Technologies Private Limited, as he comes to give us his solution. A round of applause.
Thank you, Passy. And I would like to start by asking you a question. That have you ever known where the food on our plates is coming from? It is the farmer that is working day and night, having no access to infrastructure, filling our plates while incurring losses. And if you know, these losses are as high as 40%. And this makes me very, very emotional. One of their crying needs is to save their produce at the farm from getting rotten. And in last 30 years, unlike the privileged us, we have not done much, have not given them access to power, to drive conventional cooling solutions to store and cool produce at the farm gate. Unfortunately, existing technologies which are powered by grid power, diesel generator, and our solar backup have not been able to bridge the gap, to bridge the energy gap for providing 24/7 cooling solution. To overcome this handicap, we had to think unconventionally and introduce affordable and innovative cooling solution, which uses farm waste to store farm produce at the farm gate, and thereby making farmers self-reliant. So how do we do this in an environmental friendly way and while complying with the Montreal Protocol and Kigali Amendment? So we do this by replacing power with the biomass to drive a compressor-less refrigeration system. And on the other side, use a natural refrigerant, which is ammonia. So this is really a 24/7 cooling solution, which can be made accessible to remotest farms in any developing country, which face a similar problem. So this unlocks access to energy while empowering the small and marginal farmers, especially the women farmers. And this is not it. We have gone a step further to provide hand-holding support to provide collateral-free financing options for the biomass-powered cold rooms. Building the knowledge base of farmers to help them utilize the cold room, which is basically best practices on post-harvest management. Managing the inventory stored inside the cold room, the overall cold room operations, and connecting the farmers to the end market. So technology being in the center to build end-to-end cold chain, it is very important today to support our farmers and help them transition from not just performing the pre-harvest activities, but also to now play a very significant role in the post-harvest supply chain. Just the cold temperature alone cannot reduce the post-harvest losses. We have to train, we have to empower our farmers how to handle the produce before it enters the cold room, while it is sitting inside the cold room, and after unloading it from the cold room. And this really involves very basic practices like sorting, grading, cleaning, washing, or waxing if required. So post-harvest plays a very significant role, as today we may not be able to increase the yield per acre, but definitely using a post-harvest technology, we will be able to increase the farmer's income by reducing post-harvest losses at the farm gate. So currently, more than 50,000 farmers in India are using the biomass-powered cold storages, which has helped them increase their income, their livelihood by 2x. And at the same time, save 6,000 tons of carbon emissions per annum. And this is equivalent to displacing our 15,000 petrol cars off the road. And this is what a farmer is doing to turn our environment green. Thank you.
Thank you, Akash, for that solution. Before you take your seat, I wonder whether there's a question for Mr. Akash from the audience. Do not be shy. Yes, ma'am. Please feel free to walk to the microphone to ask your question. Please give her some motivation as she comes. Thank you.
Hi Akash, Sejal this side. I'm working with Urja Development Solutions Limited. Just like you are providing cold storages to the farmers, we are providing cooling as a service to the farmers. And the source of energy for us is solar. But yes, as you rightly said, it's not catering fully to them. So we have to use batteries to keep it 24/7 cooling. Now, the major challenge that we have noticed while we are working with providing these cold storage services is the behavioral change that needs to happen in the mind of farmers, that they should, rather than going for stress selling, they can store their produce and produce it at a time when they can get a good price of their produce. So how do you try to cater that when it comes to reducing food wastage, at the same time making them understand that income is also an important part that they should focus upon while they are selling these produce in the market?
Great. Thank you, Sejal, for the great question. So we have to realize that the farmer is not the risk taker. They have to earn their daily income, their daily food. And now, to make them transition from the pre-harvest to post-harvest, we have to provide them ample support. And this support is not just a cooling solution. This is teaching them on the basic business approach. So me as an entrepreneur, when I started a business, I had a few hiccups. And it's the same case with the farmer. So we have to take the farmer to the next step, help them bridge the gap. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you for your question. Akash, I'm going to invite you to keep me company on the stage.
Sure, thank you.
So do take a seat as I invite the next solution in the house. So it is with great pleasure that I want to invite Pramod Penkesilia. Pramod Penkesilia. He is the Development Director at iSolar Africa. A bigger round of applause as he comes. Thank you.
Thank you. It's Pramod Pinsilia.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think I'll fail myself if I did not start off by congratulating the Springboks for winning the Rugby World Cup. It shows what a resilient, passionate, and purpose-driven nation we are as people. So, good afternoon to everyone. Thanks for joining us. I do not have an engineering or chemistry background like majority of my colleagues that I've met through the GCIP program that's attending. I do have a background in credit risk management and credit analytics, having worked in the credit bureau industry over the past 14 years in Africa. So the major challenge in Africa from an inclusivity perspective is that we have the lack of ability in collecting, cleansing, and aggregating data to develop alternative credit reporting databases. And this basically has a knock-off effect in terms of financial exclusion. So we have, over the years, basically over the past 2 years, been focusing on really driving financial inclusion. We've developed a model with our partners being the University of Johannesburg and the University of Cape Town, which basically speaks to the methodology of energy being a driver of financial inclusion. So we've created a mobile platform that basically enables, we started off initially in the consumer market. We've realized that the same 600 million people in Africa that do not have access to energy also do not have, or are also financially excluded. Simply meaning that they have no financial identity, they have no credit score, and because of this reason, they can't get access to even a microloan. So our initial platform within the consumer market that we've developed enables consumers to transact on the platform. We then enable them to get a financial identity, an alternative credit score, and then an official credit bureau score. When that then happens, our innovation has established its own marketplace, where we have some leading banks, some insurers, some telcos in our marketplace, and we then enable these major corporates to then tailor products to these customers based on the customer risk profile, which is part of our analytic modeling and our IP of developing scorecards. I've had the privilege of traveling with the Parliament Portfolio Committee of Agriculture, which is chaired by the grandson of Nelson Mandela, Mandla Mandela. We sat in a meeting in Brazil to understand Brazilian technology. And through a case study that we've done, we've realized that in South Africa, there's over 2 million small-scale farmers that cannot have access to any products. And these are clean tech innovations that are being brought to Africa by the world. So we started a journey of identifying what would be the best way to actually then eliminate these barriers of access, essentially. And in March 2024, we will be launching a platform aimed at small-scale farmers through open banking infrastructure. And it's a seamless platform which then enables any small-scale farmer to then access our platform, and we almost instantaneously provide that consumer with an alternative credit score, and then that actually feeds on by us overlaying credit information, where we pull information from their bank account in real time, develop a score, overlay that with bureau information, and that then gives us a better enhanced view of this small-scale farmer. The local banks in South Africa that we integrated with, for example, Nedbank, which is a tier 1 bank, this then allows them, as we mentioned before, to tailor a specific product to this small-scale farmer. So as we see there's an acceleration of product development from the clean tech space, we need to understand that we actually need to eliminate those barriers and enable accessibility to these consumers. We are soon launching in 3 other countries in Africa. Through FairScore, which is our integrated solution to eSolar. So it's not iSolar, it's eSolar, it's a Zulu I. And within Isola's business model, through energy, as we started with our fintech, we realized that we needed to then, we saw an opportunity directly to then create our own solar product. It's basically a solar home system with a built-in Wi-Fi device aimed at consumers and not the small-scale farming market as yet. So I think I'm going to stop there. Yeah, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Pramod. Please, please, Pramod, stay on the stage. We still have to spotlight you for a few minutes.
Cool.
So, do we have any questions for Mr. Pramod? Anybody? Any question? I'm scanning the room. No one has a question for Mr. Pramod. Lucky for you, Mr. Pramod, I have one.
Thank you.
For you.
Yeah, sure.
What challenges do rural farmers face in adapting and benefiting from off-grid solar solution, and how is eSolar Zulu addressing these challenges?
So, as I've mentioned before, the major challenge is access to even buy technology so that they could adopt it and accelerate the transition, right? And so we actually found that as a major problem, which is really lying in an infrastructure development problem. And it's not just in South Africa, it's across Africa. So as long as we can solve for that through our platform, we would encourage then all clean tech innovations to join our platform so that they could actually have an opportunity firsthand of providing these customers. We are entering the Kenyan market soon, as you know, so we'll be looking at engaging further with the market to try and accelerate and partner to reach our goals.
Great. As a Kenyan in the house, I'm looking forward to welcoming you to Kenya. I'm going to invite you to have a seat. We just want to spotlight you both for just 2 more minutes with a general question to you both. So I'm sure you both had each other's solutions. So I want to ask you both, what are the things that you've learned from each other's solutions? And also, as you're answering that question, what is your vision for the agricultural sector as we go into 2024? And in the context of COP29 next year, if you have any visions for that future. So we'll start with you, Akash.
So I think financial inclusion is going to be the next biggest development with which we make sure that the farmer or the agriculture segment gets access to credit. Today, when we go out to sell our systems or introduce our units to the farmers, the only challenge that we face is how are they going to afford it? We have tried various financing means, providing a collateral-free loan, providing interest subvention, but without a credit score, it is impossible for a bank, a private bank, public bank, or even a non-banking financial institute to really finance a farmer. So I think providing a whole solution of financial inclusion really empowers the farmer to access the technology to make them grow.
Great, thank you, Akash. Same question for you, Pamrat.
So from our observation, the reason why there's a lack of product innovation across Africa essentially is because no one's collecting this data that we collect. No bank, no insurance in South Africa, for example. And by not having this data, which is really payment data and building a risk profile, this actually constitutes underwriting data. So as long as you don't have this underwriting data, you cannot develop a micro-insurance product for the market. You cannot develop a micro-health product for the market. So over the past 2 years, we've actually launched our own financial services as an arm of our business. We've launched our own funeral cover using all this data. We soon will be launching a pregnancy cover and a micro-insurance product as well into Africa. But it's again, the lack of no one doing it is really restricting farmers to have access to a micro-insurance product or a micro-health product. So that just doesn't talk to the consumer market. It's exactly the same for the small-scale farmers market.
Great. Thank you so much. Please, a round of applause for the two solutions we have on agricultural sector. I'm going to invite you to leave the stage and to thank you again for your solution. Thank you, Akash. I don't know about you all, but I love food. So it's very encouraging to see these solutions that are coming and being able to spotlight them, and I hope other people in the room will be inspired to come up with more solutions for decarbonizing the agricultural sector.